I'm 22, and this all started 3 weeks ago with a single text message. It was a Sunday morning. I'd just finished laundry and was about to head to brunch when my phone buzzed. It was from my mom. That wasn't unusual. We text a lot. But what was unusual was the message. It said, "God, I can't stop thinking about last night. I still smell you on me. Don't tell the kid." 3. I just stood there, staring at the screen, my stomach flipping like I was on some nightmare roller coaster. For a second, I genuinely thought it was a mistake. Like, maybe she meant to text my dad? But even that made my skin crawl, because my dad died 4 years ago. At first, I didn't respond. I put my phone down and just sat there, heart pounding, the sound of the dryer finishing a cycle in the background. I kept trying to rationalize it. Maybe it was a wrong number? But the name was saved. It was my number, my name. My mom had definitely meant to send it to someone else. That's when panic started to settle in. I did something I probably shouldn't have. I opened our old family iPad, the one my mom uses when she doesn't want to squint at her phone. We're still signed into the same Apple ID from when I was in high school, and I never logged out. The messages synced, and what I saw made my stomach drop. There were dozens of messages, some recent, some older, all from a contact saved as B. No full name, no photo. But the content made everything clear. They were explicit, emotional, romantic. My mom wasn't just casually dating someone. She was deeply involved, and had been for a long time. And the worst part? She kept referring to me in the messages as the kid. The kid's home early. The kid's asking questions. The kid still thinks I go to yoga on Thursdays. I read those words over and over again, and each time it felt like a punch to the chest. I wasn't even her daughter in those messages. I was just the kid. Like some inconvenience she had to tiptoe around so she could sneak off and do whatever she was doing. I didn't even know who she was anymore, and I hadn't even asked the scariest question yet. How long has this been going on? Because the timeline, the messages, the lies, don't line up with what I thought I knew. What if this isn't just about now? What if this started before Dad died? That's when things really started spiraling. After reading those messages, I couldn't stop shaking. You always think you know your parents. You grow up with this idea that they're stable, predictable, solid, but I felt like I had just seen something I was never supposed to see. Like I had opened the wrong door in a house I'd lived in my whole life. I couldn't stop scrolling. The texts between my mom and B went back at least a year. That's as far as the synced messages loaded. They were all like that. Flirty, cryptic, sometimes flat out dirty. I didn't even want to read them, but I couldn't help it. I was trying to find something. A clue. A name. A timeline. A reason. She always signed her messages L, just the letter. But what really messed me up was realizing how easily she had lied to me. There were messages like, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Kid thinks I'm at book club." Or, "Pick me up a block away. Don't want any nosy neighbors asking questions." I kept thinking about all the Thursday nights she'd come home late, in her yoga leggings and sneakers, hair pulled up like she'd been sweating. I remember once she even brought home a yoga mat that she claimed someone gifted her at the studio. She had an entire routine built around it, and now I knew. It was fake, every single time. There were photos too, not of them together, but of champagne glasses, hotel rooms, dishes at restaurants I'd never seen before, always with captions like, "Still tasting you," or "Last night was perfect." One picture showed her hand resting on someone's leg in a car, male hand, older, tan, wedding ring. That's when the next sickening thought hit me. He's married. She wasn't just cheating on a dead man's memory. She was part of someone else's betrayal too. The irony was unbearable. My mom used to give me lectures about loyalty, about honesty. She'd lost it when I skipped class in 11th grade and forged a note. Told me lies rot people from the inside. She'd literally said that, word for word. Now here she was, living a whole second life behind my back. I wanted to confront her right then and there, but I didn't. Something stopped me. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was the fact that once you let that truth out, you can't stuff it back in. So instead, I played dumb. I closed the iPad, put it back on the charger like nothing happened, and went to brunch like everything was fine. But nothing felt fine anymore. That night, I pretended to be asleep when she came home. I listened as she moved around the kitchen, humming to herself, probably thinking about him, probably still tasting the wine from whatever hidden dinner she just came from. I stared at the ceiling for hours, heart pounding, thinking, was she cheating on Dad before he died? Did she even love him? Was any of our family real? I didn't know it yet, but I was about to get answers to all of those questions. I would wish I never had. After a few sleepless nights pretending everything was normal, I started digging. Not in a crazy, dramatic way. At least, not at first. I just wanted clarity. I wanted to know if this affair was new, or if it went deeper, if it was something that started after Dad passed, or before. It's insane how fast your brain starts rewriting memories once you stop trusting someone. Suddenly, all these tiny things I'd ignored over the years started flashing in my head, like red flags I never noticed. Like how she used to lock her phone at dinner, how she always got a little too defensive when I asked harmless questions, how she barely cried at Dad's funeral, but sobbed like a child when our dog died the next year. But what really got to me was the box. There's this small attic crawl space in our house. Nothing dramatic, just old stuff shoved into plastic bins. I hadn't been up there in years. But I remembered after my dad died, she boxed up some of his things for when I'm ready to go through them. So I decided to be ready. It was a gray plastic storage bin, labeled in thick black marker, Mark's keepsakes. Mark was my dad. Inside were things I expected. His watch, old letters, photos of us at the beach, a Father's Day card I made in 3rd grade. It all hit me hard. But underneath the sentimental stuff, I found something weird. A plain brown envelope with a red ribbon wrapped around it. It had no name, no label, nothing. I opened it. Inside were printed emails. Dozens of them. Not texts, not screenshots. Actual printed emails, like someone wanted to preserve them physically in case they disappeared online. They were from a man named Ben, the same initial as B in my mom's texts. The earliest one dated back 6 years ago. Dad was alive back then. The messages were intimate. They talked about meeting at the cabin, about being careful not to leave receipts, about how he still hasn't figured it out, and how our kid's too young to notice. Our kid, me. I felt physically sick. This wasn't some fling that started after my dad passed. This was years in the making. My mom had been cheating on my dad while he was alive, and based on the tone of those emails, it had been going on a long time. There was one line I'll never forget. I wish we could just tell the truth already, but I know she won't handle it, and neither will the kid. He wasn't talking about my mom. He was married, too. At that point, my brain went numb. I stopped reading. Just sat there in that attic with these stupid old emails scattered around me like landmines. My whole childhood suddenly felt like a lie. Every time my mom tucked me in. Every Sunday morning pancake breakfast. Every night I heard my parents laugh from the other room. Was that real? Or was it just a cover-up for what she was doing behind closed doors? And the worst thought of all, did Dad ever know? And if he did it kill him? Because that's the part I hadn't told you yet. My dad didn't die in a car crash, or from cancer. He died suddenly, from a heart attack in his sleep. And now I couldn't stop thinking. What if it wasn't random? After reading those emails in the attic, I couldn't go back to pretending, not even for a second. I started walking around the house like a stranger. Every photo frame felt staged. Every drawer felt like it was hiding something. And my mom? She kept smiling, asking how work was going, offering to make my favorite soup like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't spent years cheating on her husband and lying to her only child. But what haunted me more than her betrayal was the idea that my dad might have known. He died 4 years ago, on a Monday morning. I was 18. I remember that day like it was etched into my bones. I had just gotten home from a weekend camping trip with friends. My mom was in the kitchen crying, and she told me Dad had passed away in his sleep. His heart just gave out, she said. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? But now, I wasn't sure of anything anymore. That night, I went back to the attic. I don't know what I was looking for. Something, anything that could prove he knew. I went through the rest of the box, pulling out receipts, old photos, even scribbled notes from his work. Nothing useful, nothing suspicious. Until I found his old journals. There were 3 of them, stacked neatly beneath a pile of newspaper clippings, and a water-damaged yearbook. I opened the first one, expecting notes about taxes, maybe some dad advice he never got around to giving. Instead, I found this entry dated almost exactly 6 months before he died. Something's wrong. She's lying about where she goes on Thursdays. I found a hotel receipt in her coat pocket, from a place near the lake. She said she was getting a massage. It didn't add up. I didn't push it. Maybe I should have, but I'm scared. I don't want to see what I think I'm already seeing. I had to reread that 5 times. My chest was tight. My hands were shaking. He knew. Maybe not everything. Maybe not how long it had been going on. But enough. Enough to make him suspicious. Enough to make him doubt her, and he kept writing. Saw her texting someone again. She puts her phone face down now. That's new. Said it was a work thing. I nodded. I lied too. Told her I was going to the hardware store and drove around for an hour just to clear my head. I feel stupid. I want to believe her, but I don't. That journal became a mirror into his unraveling mind. Entry after entry, I watched my father descend into heartbreak. I could see him trying to hold himself together. For me. Trying to convince himself he was imagining things, hoping she'd come clean. She never did. The final entry, written 2 days before he died, was short. Almost too short. Can't sleep. Had a dream she was packing her bags. I didn't stop her. That was it. That was the last thing he ever wrote. I remember seeing him that Sunday night. He was quiet. Tired. He kissed me on the forehead and told me he was proud of me. I didn't think anything of it at the time I had. Now I couldn't stop wondering, was that a goodbye? Did he die from a broken heart, or was it something worse? Because in the weeks leading up to his death, he'd written over and over about one thing. I need to tell the kid. She deserves to know, but he never did. Someone made sure of that. After reading Dad's journals, I couldn't breathe. There was no doubt anymore. He knew. He suspected the affair. He doubted my mom. He wanted to tell me the truth. And now that I had all these pieces in front of me, his words, the emails, the receipts, it felt like he'd been trying to reach me all this time, even from beyond the grave. I needed answers. I needed confirmation, and I wasn't going to get it from her. So I turned to the one person who knew my dad better than anyone else, Uncle Dave, my dad's older brother. I hadn't talked to him in months, not because anything happened, just life. He lived a few towns over, and after the funeral, he kind of faded from the picture. We'd exchange holiday texts, but that was it. Still, when I called him and asked if I could come by, he said yes right away, almost like he'd been waiting. When I got there, he gave me this long look. Not warm, not cold, just heavy. I didn't waste time. I told him everything. About the text Mom sent me, about the messages with B, about the emails I found in the attic, and finally, about Dad's journals, especially the entries where he talked about being suspicious and feeling like he was being lied to. Uncle Dave didn't interrupt. He just sat there with his hands clasped, jaw tight. When I finally finished, there was a long pause, and then he said the words that changed everything. He was going to leave her. I blinked, thought I misheard him, but he repeated it. Your dad was going to leave your mother, he told me, 2 weeks before he died. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Uncle Dave said he'd been trying to stay out of it, that he didn't want to believe what Mark, my dad, was saying. He thought maybe it was stress or paranoia, but the more they talked, the more convinced he became that something was going on. Dad didn't tell him who the other man was. He didn't know yet, but he knew enough to realize that my mom wasn't who she pretended to be. Uncle Dave asked him if he wanted to confront her. Dad said no. He was scared of what it would do to me, scared that if he confronted her too early, she'd twist it, and I'd never believe him. So he started making plans quietly. He was going to rent a small apartment downtown. He'd even started moving money into a separate account. Uncle Dave helped him set it up. He wanted to wait until after my high school graduation, just a few months away. And then, he died. In his sleep, just like that. No warning. No history of heart problems. No pain. Just gone. At the time, the doctor said it was a stress-induced cardiac event, not a full heart attack, not something they could have predicted. It was chalked up to genetics and bad luck. But now, with everything I knew, something about it didn't sit right. That's when Uncle Dave leaned back, rubbed his face, and said, "There's something else." He walked to his hallway and came back with a photo frame, one I'd seen 1,000 times before. It was a picture of my parents and me at the lake house. But Uncle Dave took the back off the frame and pulled out what was behind it. It was a note, not handwritten, typed, folded into thirds and yellowing with age. Uncle Dave said he found it in one of my dad's jackets after the funeral. He didn't know what to do with it at the time, so he hid it. He never told anyone. He said he always wondered if he made the right call. He handed it to me. I opened it, and at the very top it said, "If anything happens to me, don't believe it was natural." I stopped reading, because suddenly I didn't feel like a daughter uncovering an affair anymore. I felt like a witness to something bigger, something criminal. After reading that line, "Don't believe it was natural," something shifted inside me, like a trapdoor opening beneath my entire world. I looked up at Uncle Dave and asked him the only thing I could think of. "Why didn't you show this to anyone?" His face crumpled. He said he thought maybe my dad was being paranoid, or that it was just fear talking. He didn't want to cause more pain. And honestly, he was scared of what it could mean. Scared of my mom. Those words hit me hard. Scared of my mom. Because up until now, she was just a liar, a cheater, a manipulator. But this was different. I took the note and left. My brain was racing the whole drive home. If my mom had been hiding something that serious, she couldn't have done it alone. Someone had to know. So I reached out to the one person who had always been glued to her hip since the funeral, Aunt Claire, her younger sister. They'd grown oddly close after Dad died. Grief does weird things. But now, I had questions, so I texted her, "Can we talk? It's important." She replied "I was wondering when you'd reach out." I met Aunt Claire at a quiet coffee shop edge of town. She looked tense and carrying something heavy for a long time. We barely sat down before she leaned in and said, "You found the emails, didn't you?" I didn't even have to answer. She could see it in my face. She looked down at her hands for a long moment, then said, "Your mom told me about the affair years ago." My stomach. I asked her. She said it started 7 years ago, before Dad died, before I turned 16. Aunt Claire didn't approve, but she never said anything. She said she was scared of blowing up the family. That's what she called it. Blowing up, protecting a liar was somehow noble. But then she said something. "Your dad came once. He was asking questions. He didn't say much, said something felt off." I told your mom about it that same night. That was the moment I realized Claire might have helped cover something, whether she meant to or not. I asked her directly, did my mom have anything to do with Dad's death? Claire didn't say yes, but she didn't say no either. She just whispered, there were things that didn't make sense. I don't know what I was expecting after talking to Aunt Claire. A confession? A breakdown? Closure? What I got instead was a name. She said it quietly, like it might burn her tongue. Ben Foster. That's B, the man from the emails. The one my mom had been sneaking off to meet for years. The one who was married. Still is. I ran a quick search the moment I got home, and there he was. Ben Foster, local real estate developer, family man, board member of a children's charity, and, apparently, my mother's longtime secret. He wasn't some anonymous fling, he was known, public, with a wife, 2 kids, and a lake house about 40 minutes away. I recognized the exterior pictures I'd seen on my mom's phone. The craziest part? I remembered him. He used to show up at our house once or twice a year when a work friend, she'd say. Sometimes he brought wine, just another adult. Now I saw it differently, all of it. So I did something. I drove to the lake house. I parked down the road and waited until he pulled into the driveway. No wife, no kids, just him. I walked right up, knocked on the door, and when he opened it, I said, I know who you are and I know what you did. His face turned white. He didn't deny it. He didn't say a word. He just stepped aside and let me in. The lake house was quiet, too quiet. Ben didn't speak right away. He just motioned to the couch like we were old friends. I sat. He didn't. He stood by the window, back to me, hands in his pockets. Finally, in a voice that didn't sound like his own, he said, I told her this would happen. I asked him how long it had. He said nearly 8 years. Started as a stupid flirtation at some fundraiser. Grew into a full-blown affair. The guilt came and went. The thrill didn't. They were in love, or at least they thought they were. I asked him if he had anything to do with my dad's death. That's when he turned around. No, he said quickly. Too quickly. Then softer. But I think she did. He claimed he never asked questions. Said your mom had this look when she wanted you to back off. He didn't want to know what she was capable of, because he didn't want to face what he was capable of by staying in it. And then, he slipped. He said, it was never supposed to go that far. She only wanted to scare him. I froze. Scare him? I asked what he meant. He looked like he wanted to rewind time, shut his mouth, but it was too late. She told me she was going to give him something to mess with his heart meds. Just once. Said it'd shake him up, make him back off. But my dad wasn't on heart medication. I knew that for a fact. Ben looked stunned when I told him. Genuinely. He started stammering. Said maybe he misunderstood. Maybe it was just a figure of speech. But I saw it in his face. He hadn't misunderstood. He just didn't know he was helping cover up a death. I waited 3 days before I confronted her. 3 days of pretending everything was fine, while my brain was screaming. I replayed Ben's words over and over. She only wanted to scare him. What did she give him? Did she even know what she was doing? Or had she lied to everyone, even herself? When I finally asked her to sit down, she didn't hesitate. She must have known. Maybe she was just tired of holding it all in. Or maybe she thought I didn't know as much as I did. I started with one sentence. I know about Ben. She didn't blink, didn't gasp, just sighed. She said it was a mistake that turned into something else, that she felt unseen, unappreciated, trapped in a routine, all the predictable cliches. I didn't interrupt. I let her talk, but then I told her what I found. The messages, the journals, the note Dad wrote, the meeting with Ben. And finally, I asked her, did you do something to Dad? Silence. Then, he found out about us. He said he was leaving. He wanted to take you. Her eyes filled with something. Regret? Fear? I don't know. She said she panicked. That she did try to scare him. Gave him something herbal, over the counter. Thought it would make him dizzy, weak. Just enough for him to slow down. She insisted she didn't mean to kill him. That she never meant for any of this to happen. But I don't believe her. Because she never called for help that morning. She never even tried. She waited 3 hours before calling 911. Said she found him like that. Played the grieving wife like she'd rehearsed it. And the final thing she said to me before I walked out? You don't understand what love can do to a person. No apology. No guilt. Just that. I left. I haven't spoken to her since. It's been 6 weeks. I filed a report. I gave the emails, the journals, the note, everything. I don't know if anything will come of it. The evidence is thin, old, circumstantial. There's no autopsy. They never did one. She might get away with it, but I won't let her keep the story. That part is mine now, and I think maybe that's what my dad wanted, because I keep coming back to one line in his journal, one that didn't make sense until now. If she rewrites the ending, promise me you'll write it back. I promised, and now I have.